like to now talk about Chapter 2, which I entitled in the book, Cycling Down to Earth. So how do we get from this huge parabrahmic reality in this cosmic logos, which is beyond our comprehension to even perceive with the human mind, down to where we are? Well, I call this the descending consciousness, our being. It descends down. Now again, I'd like to do a quote from Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 8, Krishna says, "Descending into my material nature, I again and again create all of the cosmic manifestation of which the sum total is delivered to my compelling force." And said also in another way by the Beatles in one of their pop songs, "I am you, and you are me, and we are all together." So, as you can see, Krishna here is really saying that he's descending from one level to another. There's a descending relationship of consciousness into every level of existence. Your consciousness is more sophisticated than, let's say, a fly, and vice versa. An angel's consciousness would be more sophisticated than yours, more, you might say, developed or evolved. As consciousness descends, though, it becomes increasingly engrossed in what we call matter. But remember, matter itself is a vortex of vortexes around other vortexes, and so yet matter is a result of consciousness also. Yet these configurations, such as the body, the physical body, the senses, the sense organs, have their own interaction, which can cause, of course, a mental entrapment through ignorance. That's all that's meant there. Now, I want to talk about here, we are talking about occultism, metaphysics. Occultism just means that which is hidden. Once it's not hidden, it's no longer occultism. It's called public education, our college. There's many things taught in colleges today that were esoterically taught only in the temples to the high priest and, of course, the royal families. That's why I say that. Now, there are three laws or rules we want to lay down here in all occultism that's important to understand. The first one is, our axioms. The first one is, 7 is the perfect number of creation. Just hang on to that, 7. You'll see it replicated in many, many times in religious documents and all over the world. 2, the second maximum is, or axiom is, the microcosm, meaning the little, is a miniature of the macrocosm, which leads to the third one, which we've talked about quite extensively already. All phenomena have their origins in vortices, whirling little centers. Okay? Now, 7 is the perfect number of creation. I know Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who was a great occultist in the late 1800s, and a main player in bringing knowledge to us about these things, was once asked, is this the only way the universe could have been created? And she says, I don't know, but this universe was definitely based on 7. Of course, she was the emissary of the Eastern masters who lived in the Himalayas, and they brought great teachings to the earth and to the West. Now, 7 as the perfect number has as much to do with 7 as quality as well as quantity. 7 is a universal archetype in all the ancient religions and their creation myths, such as the 7 spirits before the throne in Christianity. In our thesis, there is the 3 logos of the cosmic trinity from which the 7 Dayan Chohans arise. Those are like archangels. 7 and 3 make 10, and 10 is the number of completion, while 7 is the number of creation. 7 is the number of creation in our universe and in this Manvantara. So, you see in the Kabbalah, the Jewish Kabbalah, you have 10 Sephiroth, are 10 spheres of consciousness. The top 3 are the 3 logos that manifest the 7 logis on the bottom that do all the creation. Interesting. Even though the Jews are not really the creators of the Kabbalah, the modern Western versions of it have been under their care esoterically for many years. Okay. Now, getting into the microcosm as a miniature of the macrocosm. As above, so below is the statement you hear many times, even in Scripture. Jesus says, whatever you bind in heaven shall be bound on earth. Whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. You hear these kinds of statements all the time. Now, as above, so below is the ancient statement from the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. What is reflected in the heavens is also reflected in the earth, and what is reflected in the earth is reflected in the heavens. For example, as electrons orbit the nucleus of atoms, so do planets orbit the sun, as the sun orbits the galactic center, and so on and so on. All right, so what you have here is as above, so below. I said this before. You have the three cosmic logos. You also have within man the microcosm. Man is a miniature of the macrocosm in scale. Even man himself has a little universe that is the microcosmic reflection of the heavens. A human being has, according to the initiates, three faculties reflective of the three logos of the cosmic trinity and seven vehicles altogether. So you see even reflected in mankind his Atma Buddhi Mana, his divine spark, his divine consciousness, his divine body, are all in the image and likeness of the original archetypal creators, the cosmic logos. So, you see it all does go together. Now, let's put it all together. The central sun would be an expression by the ancient East of the Raja star, the king star. The central sun would probably have what you would call, some kind of whirling vortex, which we would call the center of our galaxy. Even science today is looking for this center. They're looking for it, they sense it, they feel it's out there, and they think they know where it is. Certain scientists have been investigating this. Now, what I'd like to say is that there are ancient traditions that speak about a central sun in the center of our universe. This Raja, our king star, is the great working center of the cosmic logos. It is debated as to whether the central sun is visible or not, or the central star. Around this center rotates, spins, explodes, creates, destroys, and preserves countless galaxies and their children solar systems. Each galaxy has a central sun in the image and likeness of the Raja star, and so does each solar system, including ours. Now we're stepping down to our solar system. See, we're getting there. Now, thus, the central sun of our solar system is also of a tripart nature, like the cosmic logos. You see this trinity created, or recreated, I should say, are holographically reflected over and over again. Now, the central star, by analogy, of our solar system is the sun in its physical manifestation, but it's also the solar logos. See, every star or system has a logos of its own, just like there's a cosmic logos, we have a solar logos. As above, so below. That's the law we're showing here. Thus, the Raja star is a central star. So is our sun, the central star of our solar system. There are more ways than one presented here today to look at the central solar system and our solar logos. For the esoteric East and West, the Christ of Western culture is the incarnation of the solar spirit, God the Sun, into our evolutionary stream, which we'll talk about later on a little bit more in depth. But for now, let's just imply that our central star is the Christ, the solar logos that incarnated into Jesus of Nazareth several thousand years ago. Anyway, moving from that, let's go back now and also talk about something else that's important with this stepping down from the central sun to the solar system, our galaxy, I should say, to a solar system, to a planetary logos, right down to the physical Earth. Now, the cosmic logos and also our solar logos reflect the same kind of a thing, our methodology. So, first there's three great outpourings. I call it from God to Clod, and then from Clod back to God. And what you have here in these three outpourings is an involution, a creation of matter, and an involution of life through that matter, and an evolution of form, which finally meets higher consciousness. Now, the solar logos collectively has three outpourings, one for each of the three logos discussed so far. All three play a significant part and have a specific role to play. The first outpouring comes from the third logos of our solar system, who, while directing the lesser evolved gods under him, creates the 7 cosmic planes of existence in the 7 sacred planets. You see where 7 comes in again? Even at the solar systemic level. 2, at the proper time, the second outpouring of the second logos begins to enter the 7 cosmic planes from subtle to gross, from top down, one might say. The outpouring, or the second logos, is the wave of life that enters into these different levels of matter and creates the first forms of life. These forms of life begin to emerge on an upward arc of this life wave and form the various kingdoms of existence, such as mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. Thus we see material science's perception of only this part of the arc, the upward turn of the arc, seeing the evolution of form, even though they can't find transitional forms because it's consciousness that's changing, causing the form to change, and there's a jump in consciousness, there's a jump in form. That's why we don't find these transformational forms anywhere. Now, third, at the human stage, the first logos sends the third outpouring, which brings the divine sparks to the human forms that have evolved. Now, the figure that I showed on the screen graphically shows a thumbnail sketch of all this, of an infinitely complex involution of spirit and evolution of form and consciousness and life. Wow. So that's pretty heavy. So put it in a short form, a descending of the third logos, of the solar third logos, in other words, the tripartite solar logos, creates the layers of matter out of the existing matter that the third logos created, and also our solar systemic logos created. And it creates all subtle forms all the way down to gross hard matter. The next logos, the second logos, actually sends into the third logos' matter life waves, life. That's why we can't find life, we can't create it. And begins to evolve the forms according to its consciousness needs. And when it reaches a stage of humanity, whatever that stage is, on any planet, when it reaches the stage of humanity, the divine spark, our divine spark, is finally allowed to come down and connect to the human body, which has evolved from a primitive form, maybe ape-like, into what we see so many thousands of years ago, and finally consciousness dawns. There's a connection that is made. Like a stalactite and a stalagmite growing together in a cave, they finally touch. Simple as I can make it. Now, in our solar system, using this analogy of 7, there's 7 planetary conditions every solar system goes through, including the Earth. We are now in our 4th planetary condition, and if we were to label them with letters, it would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That would be our planetary conditions in shorthand there. Now, what I'd like to say at this point is globe D is where we're living now. And it's like a big arc that comes down like this. Okay? And we're right here. You know, A would be here, B, C, then D, then E, then F, then G would be about here. Here we are. Now, every one of these layers, there's a level of consciousness and a density of matter. And this is a schematic way of showing it. This isn't how it truly is. It's more concentric, which we'll get to later. But globe D is the current Earth we live on. This is where we exist now as human monads, you might say. Monads are little vortexing centers. There can be a mineral monad, an animal monad, or human monads that have the unique experience of I consciousness. I am not you, I am not her, I am not this, I am not that rock. Even if it's an illusion, it's still something that we can experience, ego consciousness. We experience waking consciousness at the same time now, but still carry with us 3 prior states of consciousness from previous experiences on globes A through C. This is very important because on globe A we were mineral monads, on globe B we were vegetable monads, on globe C we were animal monads, and on globe D we are human. In every evolving form, angels to gods, must go through this and reach their human stage, which is different than ours. They have a different human stage on their particular planet. Now, What I'd like to say here is that what I wanted to say before was that the globes are really concentric. It isn't A, B, C, D, and all that. They're actually like an egg, Brahma's egg, a shell of globes. And the densest, of course, is in the middle. Now, what we should remember is that globes A through G exist inside of each other, such as comparable to a group of multiple concentric circles. They exist now. However, we are not consciously aware of all of them. Masters are initiates, people who have evolved to the stage, saints. They're conscious on these globes in a waking state. So, there you go. We're living in somewhat a much more limited perception of reality. Now, the planetary spheres themselves, here's a very unique thing. These concentric shapes of the solar system, it is the spheres that are the real planets and not their material orbits. So here you have a planet orbiting like this. But the orbit it's going around, Einstein was right, space curves. That curve is the real sphere of which this little vortex called the physical planet is actually rolling around on. In true astrology, it is the sphere that is the true planet. The physical planet, is just a moon on this great sphere. A little esoteric teaching there for you. I hope you can appreciate that. Now, what I'd like to say here is imagine an onion skin and peeling an onion away. This is what we're doing. This is what we're saying with our planetary spheres. Now, as a result of that, we had 4 different states of consciousness that human beings have. Right now, any psychologist will tell you, we have 4 states of consciousness. We have human consciousness, or the waking state. We have a dreaming state, or REM state, rapid eye movement. We have a dreamless sleep state. And ultimately, we finally have a cosmic trance-like state. Okay? Now, esoterically, these 4 modalities of human consciousness have been inherited along our journey through the beginning of our solar system. They are still with us today and hold the key to tremendous power and knowledge. They really do. For example, the waking state is the human kingdom, and it relates also to the waking state. The daylight consciousness, I like to call it. But the dreaming state relates to the animal kingdom, and that's why animals think in pictures. They don't think in words. They're dreaming, believe it or not. The dreamless sleep is the plant kingdom. The plants are in a dreamless sleep, which you are at certain times during the sleep cycle. And a trance-like state, which is the highest state, is the mineral kingdom. So when you see a rock, from our perspective, it looks unconscious or completely trance-like, but crystals, rocks, different formations have states of consciousness that are really reflective of very high beings. But that's for another discussion. So anyway, to sum it all up, we have many, many different states of consciousness that have evolved in time with these concentric spheres down to where we are now. We have 3 major occult laws. As above, so below would be one of them, which, of course, is the Hermes law. The other one would be all phenomena is based in vortices, and these vortices go from above to below. The bigger the vortice, the more evolved the consciousness individualized behind it, and the more vortices is under its domain and control. All right, so Solar Logos controls everything within the solar system, whereas we control maybe our lives, but we have the potential to control the whole Earth. And finally, 7 is the perfect number. Man is a septenary being, meaning sevenfold. And these are the 3 axioms of occultism, and that's how we got to where we are. And next we'll talk about, in the next chapter, our levels of consciousness and how we use them today, and how masters and initiates use them. Thank you.